Hi, and welcome to the Little Ings IELTS prep course on writing task 2, where I'm going into a sample essay on martial arts. Martial arts is something that really fascinates me, so I've written this one. We have a number of essays on burning social issues and popular culture and science that you all find within our folders. And if there's anything missing, let me know and I can deliver it to you. So now let's start. Here are some general tips. Keep your essay around the 250 word mark. Don't go excessively beyond that because you might just be blathering and you might be straying off topic. So use that as a word count to aim for because it is a pretty good word count. Spend ample time reading and processing the task as it is vital that you understand each element and you respond with like for like. A sound logical structure is essential throughout. Everything you have to say has to make sense within a very defined structure. And that structure you can achieve by planning out what you are going to write and by bulleting and writing down these bullet points and making sure that you stay within the realm of logic and leave enough time, ample time to edit and refine at the end. Writing is difficult, is one of the hardest things you can do, but the great tool, which is almost a cheat, is that you can edit and refine and polish what you have written as many times as you like, as long as you have the time and you've managed your time well. So manage your time well, because if you read your essay and you're not happy with it, you want to be able to rewrite it until it is absolutely pristine and the best version that you can present to your examiner. So, in preparation, I'm just going to read a short statement. Your success in the IELTS exam will depend on your investment in preparation time. I advise you to spend time daily immersing yourself in a variety of relevant native language media sources in order to naturally enhance your vocabulary and to familiarize yourself with blueprints of good English language use. I like the word blueprints, it sounds so nice and fancy, doesn't it? We will always give you a number of media sources that you can go to hear native speakers talk about this subject, to build your vocabulary with relevant words that you can reuse and recycle in your essay. And also, we will link to essays and to text that is relevant to the essay. But do go off and Google competently on your own to find other sources. But do it daily. If you do not do it daily, you will not build your English language muscle as much as you need to be successful in the exam. Right. Now we're going to go through the essay bit by bit. I'm just going to read out different parts of the essay, and we're starting with the task. So the task here is, there are two schools of martial arts. One being the inner martial arts, which encompasses Tai Chi Chuan and Qi Kung, also known as Qigong, and another called external martial arts, including styles such as karate, kung fu, or muay thai, relying mostly on body strength. Weighing up the benefits of both systems, which do you believe is more beneficial to the practitioner? So there's a very succinct opening statement. It has some very good vocabulary that you might use. It has words like encompasses, which is neatly academic, and of course it's listing schools of martial arts that you may want to relist in your response to the task. So make sure you familiarize yourself with the vocabulary to have a very good starting point. Moving on to the opening statement. Martial arts are an ingrained part of Western culture through the ubiquitous exposure to it via media outlets. So here you have again very good academic vocabulary, ingrained part of Western culture, for example, ubiquitous instead of being available everywhere. It's a fancier word for everywhere. Who of a certain generation doesn't remember Bruce Lee's famous and super fast fighting sequences with or without nunchaku application. So here you are evoking a popular cultural figure like Bruce Lee, and you show that you are familiar with some great detail of old martial arts heroes. And you're also doing it in an interesting grammatic way, because who of a certain generation is a very nice grammatical turn. Japanese karate and more recent MMA fighting schools are equally well known across popular culture. Again, you're delivering more facts, you're showing that you can rephrase the task, and you are talking coherently about the external martial arts at this point. What is less well known, however, first linking device, is that these schools comprise the so-called external martial arts. So here you are using that term for the first time, meaning, now you're going into more detail, that they predominantly rely on body strength, some might say even brute force, to teach successful offensive and defensive styles. Again, here you have a great academic language, predominantly a nice term to show the prevalence of these characteristics, and also brute force is a nice collocation. Strong force would not sound as good, but you know that an English native speaker uses the term brute force. And successful offensive and defensive styles. So you've really delivered a very coherent description, and you've delivered facts to paint a picture of what external martial art comprises. Again, comprises is a nice academic term. You could just say made up of, but made up of does not sound as academic. For further detail, just read through the salient points, bullet points that I have listed here, but this shall be enough for us. Let's move on. Now, you are writing a contrast and compare, or compare and contrast essay. So you need to illuminate both sides of the coin equally. You have talked about the external martial arts, so now it is time to write about the internal martial arts. So how do you start that? On the other hand, now you have a great conjunctive adverb, and you should use them at your leisure, but you should use them throughout to make sure that the logical connections in your writing are there, because they really are, they really anchor your structure. So on the other hand, there are less well-known inner martial arts that work in sync with Chinese medicine schools, such as acupuncture. Semicolon. So you have a semicolon here to show that the sentence does not quite end, but it ends, it's a little harsher break than a comma. These styles, of which Tai Chi Chuan and Qi Kung, Qi Gong, form the most famous proponents. So here you're going from one sentence level, these styles, to a next sentence level. So this fragment is not equal, but it is actually level 2 of a sentence structure. These styles, of which Tai Chi Chuan and Qi Gong are the most famous proponents, rely on the cultivation of qi. So now you go back to level 1 of the sentence. And if you want to know about elegant sentence structures and how to incorporate a number of levels into your sentence to build a nice structure, we have a lesson on that. And I urge you to familiarize yourself with that, because it is very important to show your examiner that you have an arsenal of grammatical tools and a great flexibility in building your sentence structures at your disposal. It will make you score higher on the grammatical axis. So, rely on the cultivation of qi, or inner body energy, to deliver calm and forceful techniques. Conversely, another fronted adverbial, an adverbial placed at the front of a sentence. Conversely, they focus the mind, relax breathing, and even have positive measurable effects on brainwave patterns. Another semicolon. So here is a break that is harsher than a comma. A comma would be too lightly here, and a full stop would be too harsh, because the sentences are still very much linked. Sadly, these are known in the West solely solely is a nice academic term, sounds better than alone, for their plenty health benefits, even though they deliver powerful martial applications. The master of these styles might rarely be out of breath. Might, so here you use a modal verb to show that there are a number of possibilities which you're talking about. Might be out of breath like a karate fighter, so using a simile like a karate fighter, but his arms are said to be of iron, wrapped in cotton wool. Now you're going from simile to metaphor, so you really are showing the whole range of grammatical tools at your disposal, and a metaphor will always make something come to life very much. Yes, a Tai Chi master has arms of iron wrapped in cotton wool. Well, that is what how he is talked about in popular culture. Moving on to the next paragraph, you have now successfully given facts and popular opinion within external martial arts and within the inner martial arts. You have dwelled on inner martial arts slightly longer, perhaps showing your predilection for that school, but now you are drawing a concluding statement. So the final statement that really shows where you stand. What do you like? Do you like brute force? Remember that collocation? Do you like brute force, or do you like a balancing and harmonizing of your brain patterns, which martial arts masters of the inner school aspire to? Well, now I'm going to read one of these salient points to show you what is important about a concluding statement. So imagine the concluding paragraph of an opinion essay to be the final knockout blow in the last round of a boxing match. Your opponent is the unconvinced reader or IELTS examiner in this case. You deliver your heftiest blow, your final undeniable truth. Reading the concluding statement, what do you think makes it strong? Well, so let's have a look at it. In conclusion, external martial arts schools are more easily accessible and have faster fighting application. However, to truly master the mind as an ultimate tool in maintaining health and fighting, internal martial arts seem to offer greater rewards over longer periods of time. Well, let's dissect that a bit like a surgeon, shall we? So you already know the logical structure, and to maintain that, to uphold that, we always start with an adverbial. In this case, one that is used to show that you're drawing a conclusion. And it simply says in conclusion. You could equally just say to summarize, or something similar. In conclusion, external martial arts schools are more easily accessible and have faster fighting application. However, okay, again, keeping up the linking devices to truly master the mind. So truly, of course, showing a strong opinion that you are in favor of whatever you're saying now. To truly master the mind is an ultimate tool in maintaining health and fighting. Now look at this. Now an absolute knockout grammatical tool, a gerund. You are applying a gerund, which means you are taking a verb to maintain, and you are restyling it, rebranding it as a noun in maintaining health and fighting. So instead of saying to maintain health and fighting, which limps a little bit and is a little bit lame, you say in maintaining health and fighting to sound more academic, more impressive, and to offer a greater variety of structure. Internal martial arts seem to offer greater rewards over long periods of practice. So again, you are showing your opinion. You think that the inner martial arts are better because they offer greater rewards if you practice longer. So that is a caveat here. If you practice longer. If you don't practice longer, if you do not have the patience to practice longer, perhaps the brute force stuff, the harsh kicks of kung fu, the harsh kicks of karate, the powerful external martial arts might be more your cup of tea, all right? So that is the conclusion. It's very pithy, it's very succinct, it's very short compared to the delivery of facts and opinions that you've had in the body paragraphs of your essay. But it's all it takes, really. You have said what you wanted to say. You said, look, guys, we all love a bit of rough fighting, but why not consider an alternative that might, in fact, be really, really, really good for you? Okay, I am a practitioner of Tai Chi and Qigong, so that is why I veer towards that side of the argument, if there is such an argument, and I do think there is. So that is the conclusion, and if you want to you can read through the salient points to keep those in mind. And if you have any questions that are unanswered, you might email me. If I am not meditating or doing martial arts myself, I might take the time to respond. Okay, here are a few more general tips to keep in mind throughout. Don't use contractions in writing task 2, so always write everything out in full. Write shall not instead of shan't, or can not instead of can't, because you never want to appear as if you can't be bothered. You can not be bothered. Focus on logical structure. So follow the opening statement with paragraphs highlighting facts and popular opinion to illustrate both sides of the coin as per task, meaning if that is required in the essay type. And in this case, we have a compare and contrast essay. So it is required to deliver facts and popular opinion on both sides of the coin, and then serve a final proof and a concluding statement, delivering your opinion, delivering that knockout blow that we just talked about. You can intersperse the essay with a few colloquialisms to show the examiner a sound grasp of everyday language, in particular as a quotation tool. But please do not overdo it, because you are writing academic language, and as such you should use appropriate academic language yourself. Do display a grasp of collocations. So, for example, say heinous crime instead of a terrible crime, or an avid reader instead of a greedy reader, something that does not make sense. So that will demonstrate that you are familiar with the turns of phrase that are being used by native speakers. And how can you become familiar with those? By reading and reading and reading. Ideally by reading full books rather than short articles. Why not read the collected works of Charles Dickens to prepare for your essay? Well, that is maybe taking it a little bit far, but in order to come to grips with collocations, you do have to expose yourself to language, and you just have to read and read and read. There's simply no other way. Vary your sentence types. Use particular phrases. Use gerunds to sound impressive. Use infinitives. And use different clause types. Build intricate sentence structures. Remember to stay within a tense, such as a simple past. So if you want to talk about something that happened in the past, keep delivering your sentences in the past. You will, in fact, use the simple past a lot in an essay because you're talking about events that may have happened in the past. You can jump tenses if it is logical and if it is required, such as moving from a description of an event to something that is going to happen in the future. Follow the style references and instructions of the task. I cannot overemphasize that. That is very important. You suss out the language of the task and you use it to your advantage. You talk in your essay in the same manner that the task has just talked to you. You stay on topic. In an essay, that doesn't mean that you cannot deviate a little. Deviation in this case is furnishing your argument with examples, with colorful examples, and with very stringent proof. However, make sure that all the proof and all the facts you are delivering are relevant to the topic. Do not write about diving when you're supposed to write about football, and do not write about climate change when you're supposed to write about digital technology in the classroom. It is all very self-explanatory. Make your language livelier by adding similes and interesting adjectives and adverbials and metaphors and as many syntactic tools as you can possibly think of, as we have just shown you examples of. Finally, here is your turn to impress me. After all the lessons I've just given you, I want to see that you can now write a brilliant opinion essay yourself. And here is the topic for you. Topic of the day. In a time of great uncertainty due to the COVID-19 pandemic and an acceleration of digital learning tools as a consequence of school closures, do you see the increased reliance on digital education as a learning stimulus, or are we as a society moving too fast into uncharted territory? Explore both views in your answer. Right, and I'm giving you a few tips free to use. Explore both views in your answer means that you are now dealing with a compare and contrast essay. So I want to hear both opinions. Do you like digital learning because of the uncertainty of the COVID-19 pandemic and the acceleration of the delivery of such tools in the classroom? Or do you think, on the other side of the coin, that we are moving way too fast into something that is uncharted and that we perhaps cannot control the negative effects of? Who knows? Who is to tell? Well, you are to tell. You are to tell me in the essay. That should be logically structured and use a lot of linking devices and grammatical tools, a great, impressive bag of vocabulary, colorful examples and cultural metaphors, and so on and so on. Anyway, it's your turn to impress me. Send your essay to jan@learningtimes.co.uk and I will look at it and I will give you detailed feedback. I will tell you where you've done very well, where you have done moderately well, where you have done moderately bad, and where you've done terribly. And hopefully there will be very little of that, but we shall see. And I will very much look forward to receiving a submission. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this lesson.